I'm Michael Benson. I consider myself an entrepreneur. We have a company that's in the wound care space, actually two companies within one that does both sells products for wound care, such as amniotic fluid, skin grafts, as well as we're launching a mobile wound care business in Arizona and four other states. I'm a man of faith. I've grown children and a younger girlfriend that keeps me super active.
Fun. And Michael, what is your secret to a good life?
You know, it's taken me a long time to learn it. I'll be candid. I'm past the age of 55, I'll say. And for years, I used to spend a lot of time worrying, I'll say. And I think that the key to life is most importantly, accepting things how they are, doing what you can to make things better, and having faith that everything's going to work out in the end.
And what's the experience that helped you find that insight for your life?
Yeah, I think it's several things. I've been through. I've been an entrepreneur a few times in my life. For 10 years, for 20 years, I was in the sports business. Started on the sports agency side for 10 years, and then had my own boutique agency in which we did some pretty big deals, representing the women's tennis tour globally for sponsorship, selling a minority stake in a professional sports franchise, which you typically don't have an opportunity to do as a boutique agency. After running that agency for 10 years, I got out of it, went back to the corporate world. I became an entrepreneur again in 2017, kind of on the spur of the moment when my mother passed. And that was outside of doing some successful things, it was adjunct failure. I had gone all in on a business. I transitioned into the medical space. I was worked 15 months on a partnership for concierge medicine. And the day I was supposed to sign the partnership agreement, I backed away from it. And so when you're all in, including Arizona is not like a New York City or Baltimore where I'm from, where you can survive without a car. I literally did not have a car for 2 years. So going back to the corporate world at really the lowest rung just to make some money, that was a difficult time. But probably the most difficult time is in addition to running my agency in the mid 2000s, I was asked to take over a sports commission. What sports commissions do is they bring events to a market and like Super Bowls, Final Fours, youth sports events, and so forth. And I was asked to do two things: spend money and to make it relevant. And I did both. I probably spent a little bit more money than I should have. At the end of the day, I got forced out. I made some decisions in the process that probably weren't the best decisions. But then when they owed me a little bit of money, I pressed on it. I ended up getting prosecuted. So it's never a fun day when you have your friend call you up and say, "Hey, I got a call from a Maricopa County detective questioning about our trips." And again, I made some mistakes. I own the mistakes I made. I don't think the board wanted to see it go in that direction. The person that prosecuted was a county attorney. About a year after I got prosecuted and some of my charges, he ended up getting disbarred for using his office for political gain, prosecuting people like myself and county supervisors and even a federal judge. So I remember it being the darkest time of my life. I remember calling my parents who were alive at the time, and my father would say, sorry, this is emotional, that sun will come up tomorrow, so to speak. Luckily, I have had mentors in my business, in my professional life, and I had a mentor for a number of years. A person I worked under at one of the biggest sports agencies, a guy, Bill Allard. And Bill said, "Benny," that's what he called me, "you'll emerge from this stronger and more focused than ever." That's true. And luckily I was, Phoenix is a small town. And, some people thought that there's some people who wanted to run me out of town, but luckily there were some business leaders, including the mayor at the time of Scottsdale, Arizona, and a person that had owned the Diamondbacks at one point and half of the Phoenix Suns, that gave me some opportunities. I even did business with Barry Goldwater Jr. and one of his companies, and there's probably not a more conservative name in Arizona, at least, than Goldwater. His father ran for president during the '60s, and he was a congressman. So the fact that those people did business with me at a time that I thought I was dirt. And I'll be candid, Eric. I don't tell that story often these days. I used to wear it around, as a badge on my arm. People kept saying, stop talking about that. It was 15, 20 years ago. But, something like that again, I own the mistakes I made during the process. It is a hard lesson to learn. Do I think it was fair? I don't think so. But at the end of the day, if you focus on the past failures, you focus on the past challenges, that's going to be your story. Your story. I have a younger girlfriend. I tell her, and she's been through some stuff in her life, and I tell her, the story you tell yourself makes a difference. And if you tell yourself you're a victim, if you tell yourself you've got a bad deal, that's what you're going to focus on. I think it was a Tony Robbins YouTube. I wake up 4 o'clock every morning to get to work. I became an entrepreneur again about a year ago, this past January, and we're in the wound care space. And I wake up early in the morning, get some stuff done, get some coffee going, of course, and I'll listen to some YouTube motivational videos. Whether on stoicism or there's different people I'd love to listen to, and Tony Robbins one that really drove home the point about viewing yourself as a victim. I dealt with some family stuff in terms of inheritance that I thought was unjust, that I fought for years, and I fought it as hard as anyone would fight anything, because the way I look at it was a survival thing. And whether it's family or not, you fight for what's right. And I'll never, the one thing I have learned is that I've probably more so over the past years to not react. I think it's human nature, especially as a man, to react to things and to deal with things a certain way. You have to understand that anything you control is yourself. I'm a person of faith. In fact, I did a podcast, which I want to get back to at some point, called Faith IQ, the podcast, talking to people about their different faiths and what guides them. And for me, it's a lot of times giving it up to God. As a man, that's probably the toughest thing to do. We want to be in control of things, right?
I talk about this on the show quite a bit, but me and my wife were both raised Mormon.
Okay.
And in leaving that, we've had to restructure a lot of these paradigms that we had in our lives, one of them being taking it to God. Because I'll be honest with you, my departure from the Mormon church had almost nothing to do with the doctrine of the Mormon church. It didn't have to do with Joseph Smith's weird history and all the multiple wives and stuff like that. I didn't care so much about that. I had been explaining it away for years. I had served a mission, so people had thrown all sorts of anti-Mormon stuff at me. But my departure came from, call it weakness of faith. Maybe our son was having like 100 seizures a day at the time, and we were active, devout members of the church, fulfilling callings, praying, reading, fasting, tithing, doing all of the things with our heart turned towards God. And I remember reading in the Book of Mormon, actually, there's beautiful scriptures in there. It's amazing that young man wrote it. But I remember seeing this section that basically said, like, God has made promises to his children to give them at least the feeling of relief, at least taking away the darkness and replacing it with light, that it's always there. If you knock, he will answer. And I was knocking and knocking and knocking and knocking and knocking, and nothing ever came. So I went up into the mountains and I prayed all day. And It was probably like 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening. Beautiful mountaintop, Pleasant Grove, Utah. And I was sitting on a rock. I had been crying all day and just like pouring my heart out and basically just saying, I am here and I'm looking to hear from you. Or I don't need some grand thing. I just need to feel it again. Just help me feel the thing. And it never came. And I remember looking up at the sky and going, I'm out of here. You're going to lose me. Right? Like I have been a faithful servant all of these years and I'm not going to do this anymore. And I remember looking and kind of being like, okay. So I came down from the mountain, faithless. All of it was gone. And I've had to rebuild that. And one of the key things that I've learned in that process is that faith as a concept is not exclusive to God. This belief in something that's not seen. It's a Greek word, phe, right? That is absence of doubt and total conviction that something is a certain way. It's almost delusion, but not quite, right? It's a little different. It's more, and it seems to be more powerful. And if you read through any motivational speeches or mindset, stoicism, even, they all touch on this idea of belief. And that's one of the things that I've had to reforge over these years that we've left and, learned and gotten into all kinds of wild adventures. But yeah, as far as like the use of my faith in my life, I've had to reposition it, to not feel crazy.
I understand that. I mean, that's it's interesting. I came in. I've always been a believer. I came into my faith in a big way back several years ago. I was active in a church, a Bible-based church, and I was probably the most active member. I remember from day one, I was a volunteer. I remember at one point I counted up the number of people I took to the church. And I took over 200 people to the church over the 5 years. They would have a Saturday evening and three services on a Sunday. And sometimes I would be at every service because I'd be hosting people. And people had never stepped in a church before, were going through stuff, whatever. And it's interesting. It was a very hip church too. It's very great music, started by a former, I won't say the name of the church, but started by a former athlete and stuff. So it had a really good vibe to it. I dated a girl for a short time, one person I dated from that church. And for whatever reason, it didn't work out. There was no drama between us. But at the end of the day, she tended to date wealthy people. She was engaged, I think I point to a billionaire. She dated millionaires. I'm not either. And at least not yet. And so at one point, like 6 months after we had broken up, the church basically she started dating someone else who was wealthy. They were trying to build a church. They decided for me to go elsewhere. And the way they tell you that is they bring over a Scottsdale police person, write up a ticket, says, if you come back within a year, you're trespassing. And this is a church I had been baptized less than a year earlier there. And luckily I surrounded myself. I had people in my life that supported me, and some of which are legendary believers like Jimmy Walker, who is an insurance person, but also a humanitarian, Michael Jordan's insurance agent, raised $500 million for different charities, a lot for Muhammad Ali and Parkinson's. And I think someone else said to me, if your church hurts you, you're putting your faith in people, not God.
Sure.
I think sometimes we go through I think sometimes God tests us, to be candid. I think I read something the other day. I have we got connected on LinkedIn. I got a decent LinkedIn following or group, number of connections. They said, don't post anything religious. Don't post this and that.
Yeah.
You know what? I think be yourself. My girlfriend's a non-believer. The best compliment I ever got as a Christian was from an atheist friend, a devout atheist, who said, "You're not like other Christians." I said, "What do you mean by that?" She goes, "Well, you're not judgmental." I said, "Well, you're hanging out with the wrong ones." But it's not our place to judge. Everyone has their own path. Everyone has their own beliefs. That's why it dumbfounds me in this political world that people will will end friendships based upon political beliefs. I'm just like, I don't get that.
Yeah, I don't get it either. I wish that so a couple of things happened when we left. One of them was the cream raised to the top, right? The best friendships just got stronger when I left. And I remember
Right.
I was at a buddy of mine, Ian Nelson. We were at dinner. We had just left the church, and he knew. And he looks at me. We're sitting down to dinner in their home, and he says, "We still pray in our house." Almost as like asking for permission, but just saying like, "This is where I am, and you're here, and so this is what we're gonna do." And I so appreciated that strength of conviction. Just saying, this is my domain, and this is how we're gonna do it. And if it offends you, too bad. But like, here we are, we're gonna do it. And I remember thinking, fantastic. Because there's a lot of people's homes that I go to, they know that we're not Mormon, and they don't pray over their meal. Little tiny things like that. And I wish that people had more conviction in that regard, that they would just stick to it, and regardless of what I'm doing, accept me for who I am, but keep running their game, keep doing the things that they do that make them happy. And thankfully, the list of people that are still dyed in the wool homies, friends, and family, that list is much longer than the people who abandoned us during that time. And so I didn't even notice, too bad for them that they aren't in our circles anymore, because we have a wonderful relationship. And I wish that more people would try and save me. I wish that more people would give more effort to sharing the things that they find to be true, because I think that it would make for a first of all, it's my favorite topic to talk, to discuss, is religion. And so, but especially the Mormons, they don't want this smoke, Benny. They just don't, they don't like it. I went to seminary for 4 years, served a mission. Like, I'm locked and loaded. I got all kinds of stuff to bring to bear, but it doesn't happen. I don't get to have the conversation very frequently. I don't get to have it with my dad, who is still a devout member, or my mom. I just get to have it kind of on the fringes of these podcasting episodes,
Right.
But time will tell. That happened in 2019, so we're only 5 years away from it, and I expect that more friends cream will rise to the top over the years.
It's funny because I have, I told you about the experience with the sports commission, but one of our board members is a big athlete and broadcaster. And one of my best friends, probably my best friend, is a guy that's 84 years old, Ed Sandage. He goes by the nickname Fast Eddie, and he's a character, but he's loved by everyone. He knows everyone from the governor on down. And we have a bit of a complicated relationship, because I think one day a few months ago I said, "Eddie, I really appreciate you always give me advice." He goes, "Yeah, but you never take it." And it's frustrating. And he's right, but Eddie had a hand in arranging for that board member to come to their little gathering uh, every Monday afternoon at a place called the Trophy Bar in Chandler. And the guy that's the owner of it is the biggest donor at ASU Athletics, Arizona State, and it's paying dividends now with the football team and basketball team doing well. And he had this board member come. I was like, this seems a little orchestrated. And it's healing takes a long time, especially if it's something. I'll face it. I put my heart into everything, whether it's business, whether it's relationship, whether I was working for someone else or starting my own business. I do believe we're given opportunities in life, whether it be a business opportunity, and it's up to us to execute on that. I didn't plan to be an entrepreneur again at this stage of my life. I went back to the corporate world. I was at a $2 billion company, 200% of my plan up for a promotion, written up in an internal newsletter. I had the top sales performance numbers in the nation for my category. And next thing I know, the regional VP wanted to get rid of myself and my office mate, who was also 200% of plan. And they even went as far as, saying things that weren't true in terms of what our quota was. It's easy to make someone less than 200% of plan if you lie about what their quota is, right? And so, I ended up, my office mate got fired. I ended up taking medical leave and working the system and thinking I could turn it around just based on sales. Long story short, I ended up, luckily running into a corporate lawyer for General Motors at the time. I told him I was helping him get connected in Arizona, and he asked how he could help me. And I told him what I was going through. He goes, "Oh, that's easy. FedEx a letter to the CEO." I said, "Well, I've written emails." I said, No. FedEx a letter, signature required, and then send copies of that letter with a handwritten note to 2 board members saying, "Do you know what's going on at your company?" And all of a sudden it went from being fired to, to getting a very small settlement. So all of a sudden here I am in January of this year. Oh, I guess I am going to do, I started on a side gig while I was going through that stuff and took the medical leave. I guess I am starting a company. I was working for another distributor. I didn't have the same philosophy as they did. They were all about the money in the business. Business is a very highly compensated segment in the medical space. And where I saw the value of these products that were saving lives and saving amputations. And but when that door opened, I realized, okay, I've been given an opportunity. Now I need to execute upon it. And luckily, the best blessing I got was I got a business partner in June, someone that was out there also selling in the marketplace. We joined forces. We decided to also get in the service part of the business. And that's where we connected with Dr. Robert Freiberg, who's at University of Texas, San Antonio. And he's our chief medical officer and partner. He's probably one of the most respected voices in wound care globally. And, all these are blessings. But all that plus, $3 gets you a cup of coffee at Starbucks, right? So we're in a very highly compensated segment, and we look at our bank account. Do we have enough money for gas to go down to Tucson to knock on some doors? I mean, it's always a challenge. We have our first investor coming on board hopefully this week. Small investor, but super connected. We're looking for angel investment about $750,000. I have our first series call with someone today. At the same time, I've gotten involved with local politics in Gilbert, Arizona, which talk about it's a large Mormon population.
Very Mormon, yeah.
I'm Mormon, and and I'll also get back to doing. We're going to do a podcast for the medical business. I'll also get back to the Faith IQ, the podcast, at some point too.
All blessed, and it's all coming together for you.
Yeah, and the way I look at it is, I'm busy, but these are all passions. And I'll tell you the coolest thing is I have a girlfriend we've been together almost 2 years, and she's younger, but she's had a world of experience. And one of the coolest things is she went to school for archaeology, literally dug at the Colosseum, moved to Italy several years ago when she was married, and didn't speak a word of Italian, got her archaeology degree at the University of Rome. But she's also, for work, she's a flight attendant, so she flies around the world for an major airline, and she always wanted to do acting. Well, through a relationship I had, a guy I didn't even know that well, she's now filming this week in Atlanta in a movie that's already pre-sold to Tubi.
Incredible.
And she's like, I'm not sure about this part I'm playing. I'm like, honey, you have a speaking role in a film that's sold. Most actors don't start that way.
Take the win. Yeah, take the win.
Take the win and leverage the heck out of it. Exactly.
Michael Benson, where can everyone find you?
I'm easily found on all social media, but if you go to LinkedIn, it's Michael Benson. My middle initials T is in Thomas, but it's just Michael Benson on LinkedIn. And yeah, I'm on all the other social media platforms as well.
Thank you
Everything's
so
public.
much. Thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been the Pulse Ox podcast. Please, if you found this episode valuable, give us a like on Spotify and share it with a friend.